Oh, Salman, guys. This is my last video. 2 videos ago, I did one about our sisters, or some of our sisters rather, talking about submitting when they meet the right man, submitting to him when they meet the right man. And one of the comments when I was reading was a comment by Ufunga Jani. And Ufunga Jani wrote a quote, and he wrote, "You can only fight the way you train." So this is a quote by Miyamoto Musashi. And so I read this quote that he posted, and he was talking about Ama 304. So Ama 304 is hose. So he's talking about, okay, sharp. If you are practicing for 10 years on being a hoe, and when it comes to getting married, what makes you think you'll be able to switch, and become something else, and that applies to obviously many areas in our lives. Ukuthi, we live a very unhealthy lifestyle in terms of our diet, what we consume, what we like physically, what we watch. We do that for years. We're practicing the worst habits, and then all of a sudden we think, Ukuthi, when we fight, that's how we're gonna fight, and like it's been sitting, and I watched a bit of Joe Rogan, and he also brought up who Miyamoto. And for those that don't understand or know who Miyamoto Musashi is, he's a samurai. So this is a samurai that lived in Japan, I think in the 15th century. Yes, that's 1500s. But he lived Dala, and he was involved in over 60 mano a mano combats where he won. So that means he killed over 60 other samurais in battle, one on one. But then after he hung up his sword, he then wrote a book called The Five Rings. Um, in there, he speaks about strategy, he speaks about art, and he speaks about philosophy. And coming from the quote that I had read on the comments, it actually, when you read The Five Rings, more than it being written by this murderous samurai, it applies to all of our lives, and each ring represents something different. And I thought, Uti, or at least I'm going to try and attempt to align those five rings that he speaks about into relationships and everyday lives. So I hope it translates. If I'm not doing a good job, guys, please go read the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. But let me just give a bash at it. So he speaks about five rings, and these five rings represent five different elements. So he speaks about the first ring being earth, water, fire, wind, and the last one is void. And it's crazy because these are lessons that was written down again in the 1500s Japan that really, in my humble opinion, apply in our lives. So when he breaks down the first ring, so he talks about earth. So again, he might be looking at it from a point of being a samurai. What does earth speak to? Earth speaks to the ground, it speaks to the soil, it speaks to the tangible things that you can touch. And he says, Uguti, when you are faced in battle, you need to understand the terrain in which you are operating in. You need to understand the terrain. And that's so crazy because if you look at it from a sports point, playing soccer in dry weather is not the same as playing soccer in the rain. Rugby guys can tell you for free, Uguti, the way in which you play a rugby game in the rain versus a sunny day is not the same. Let's now apply that in relationships. Let's think about the terrain, and let's think of how we can actually study, preempt, look into that. So again, it doesn't necessarily speak to a geographic location or something that is look at the ground, but it could speak to a level of understanding. A Xhosa girl from East London does not move in the same manner as a Swati girl from Nelspruit. Yes, there will be a lot of golden threads, but you understanding that will actually give you an upper hand in how they think. A girl that grew up in rural Babanangu in KZN versus a girl who grew up in modern urban Mhlanga in Durban, KZN. It's different. And once you understand that and you take that first ring of earth, it'll make things a little bit easier. It's almost like you're playing a type of chess and understanding, what you're working with, understanding the terrain, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of different people. So when he spoke about the earth ring, give me, it hits me because I understand with you when I'm talking to a person. If I'm talking to a guy in business and I go, hey, how you doing? And he goes, Fere, or he goes on Khanam, or whatever the case may be, I get a little bit of an understanding behind the terrain that this person comes from, where his strengths may be or where his weaknesses may be, just because of that. In a relationship, if she says Molo, I get to see, okay, this sister might be thinking in this type of way. If she says Sabon, if she says Dumela, whatever the case may be, because of that earth ring, I get a better understanding. So if that applies to you, if you can kind of relate, hit me up in the comments. The second one he speaks of is water. So again, what is water? Water is always adapting, adjusting, fits into whatever container you put it in. And he speaks about Wuti, now as a person, you need to be that. You need to always be adapting, you always need to be adjusting, you need to be water can be resilient when it needs to be resilient. Water is consistent when it needs to be consistent, but also understanding water, you can't be fixed. You have to be agile, you have to be flexible. And that also speaks in relationships. If you're in a relationship with someone, you also need to be able to be dynamic in that space. Maybe you're dating someone and they lose their job. You need to be able to be agile around that and not just be like, okay, I'm done, you now a broke nigga, bye. Come on. Yeah, you're dating the most gorgeous swimsuit model, and all of a sudden she starts gaining a bit of weight. You need to be fluid in that. You can't just be like, well, I'm done, I just came here for. Be fluid, be water. The same with business. Things might not always go your way. Be fluid, be like water. So that's one of the rings that also resonates with me, especially in my workspace, especially in my professional life, especially when I'm trying to look at the biggest scope of the relationships. I really look into being fluid, being flexible, being agile, forever changing and not being fixed. The third ring he speaks about is fire, the fire ring. So the fire ring, from a samurai perspective, samurai would, let's go, but more than just fire representing aggression, let's look at it like this. Let's say fire representing being proactive, being proactive rather than waiting for situations to happen to you. You can be proactive in those situations. So let's go back to relationships. If you can see what your person is not in a good space, be proactive. My love, what is wrong? What is happening? Da, 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 da. If things from a business point, if you see Wuti, there might be potential issues there. There might be potential challenges. Be proactive in that. And I think a lot of the times, something that I struggle with, especially in relationship dynamics, is being proactive in trying to understand potential problems that may occur, and then with that try and sort those things out. So when I think of the firing, as much as some people might think of aggression, I might think about being proactive, being go get it, type of mindset, versus sitting down on your laurels and waiting for shit to happen to you. The fourth one he speaks about is wind, and wind is understanding the context of something. Everyone has their own wind, so once you truly understand the context, law agafani na law, this situation is not the same as this. Everyone has their own style. If you're a samurai warrior, obviously you need to understand the wind of your position, because this one might be fast, this one might be strong, this one might have two swords. The same with relationships. Just because you dated this lady doesn't mean that the next lady is exactly the same. You might be putting together business proposals. They're not going to be the same. Understand the context, the wind of all these situations, and it'll become a little bit easier in strategizing a way forward. Again, business, relationship, etc. And then the last one that he touches on is evoid. So evoid is an abstract term. It is what you cannot see. It is the intrinsic, so it is the thoughts, the emotions, everything that cannot be explained. That's the void. I know you ladies are very, very good at having that female intuition. If you're sitting with a guy or in a relationship, you're like, something is, You can't put your finger on it, you can't see it, but you have that intuition, you've got that feeling, you've got that sense, and it's such a crucial thing when you're doing business, and you want to confirm a deal, but there's your gut feel is not saying, there's something dodgy here. you know you need to learn to back yourself. You need to learn to bet on yourself. You need to understand, Uguti, that intuition is something. 99.9999% of the time, if you're suspecting Uguti, there's something funky in his phone, there's something funky in her phone, she might be doing things that she's not meant to do. 99% of the time, you're right. Your intuition is right. There's something that's clearly right. That's true. So that one is a big one, especially when it comes to relationship. Uguti, that intuition, that gut feel, the thoughts, the emotions, everything that people can't see, the intangible stuff is such a crucial ring that he speaks to. Very, very important. So just a quick recap: you've got the earth ring, which is again understanding the terrain of a situation. The chess, where is she from? Is she from Emonti? Is she from Tanzania, Pick and Bay? Is she from Santon? Is she from Imletsane? Where is she from? Understanding those dynamics are not 100% exactly, but it gives you a better understanding. The water one: don't be fixed, be fluid, be agile, be changing. Understand what today he might not have any cash, but tomorrow he might adjust and he might make a bit of that cheese. Next one: fire, be proactive, don't sit on your laurels. Make sure that you go get it. Always go get it. Preempt potential problems, and then you'll be the first to be able to adapt. Wind: understand context. Overall awareness: each thing has its own style, and you need to cater to the different styles. So different patterns will arise, and you need to be able to adjust. And then the last one is the void, which is the abstract. It's the intangibles. So again, that's just a summary of how I view Miyamoto. An amazing, amazing philosopher. Yes, I always talk about the importance of being able to fight, because it allows you to think in a certain way. And this guy can fight, he can paint, he can articulate himself, and that's what we need to do as people. And Sizami, guys, just to be better people on this freaking journey. Hey, but yeah, let me know what you think about the book, The Five Rings. Does it apply? Did I make a good enough nyana job at trying to break it down and apply it into our everyday lives? Thank you so much to Ufunga that actually wrote Miyamoto's quote. Got me thinking, got me into a bit of a deep dive with the gent. But make sure that you practice how you want to live your life. Stop practicing wretched behavior. Stop practicing toxic behavior, because that's how you'll end up living your life. And Tanda, guys, never grind.